What do you do for someone who has everything? More. The way of how American society works certainly comes from this state of mind. Indeed, America is a large territory and therefore its population is dense, but from this population comes more and more disparity between social classes and communities. Despite the passage of time, American society has kept the same mentality, the one of the evermore. And this mentality has finally become the essence of America. In a world where the consumer is the target of all companies, all sectors, and for all social classes, however different they may be, the place of the brand in society is very important, as much for its actions as for its reputation. Indeed, Americans, just like the rest of the world, are in some way influenced by brands and by the mass consumption society, which is the most dynamic model. This is why the business strategy of each of the companies behind those brands is designed to sell more. So the economy and sport, it is a profitable business. In the USA, sport is an integral part of American culture. For many people, sport is a passion, but for the others, it is a real business. And the more important a sport like basketball, field hockey, or soccer is in people's lives, the more important collaborative brands become too. This is especially the case of the swoosh brand called Nike. Created in 1971, the footwear brand has continued to expand on American ground and later on around the world. At first exclusively for sport shoes, then over time for more standard shoes, to finally become a clothing brand in general. While remaining the pillar of sport shoes, Nike has made a name for itself in American society. But this expansion was not only achieved through luck, it was advertising that pushed forward Nike. As well as all other brands in all sectors, the objective is before all to make consumers want to buy the product, but also to make them feel confident. Years passed and technology advances rapidly. So does advertising through TV or billboards, because brands no longer use advertising to sell their product. Now they use it to sell their mentality and communicate their stand. So taking a stand, it is a real fight through advertising or a simple marketing strategy. Generally, during major events such as a manifestation or others event, major brands do not take the risk of taking sides for particular causes by fear of losing certain consumers, class, or for fear of being misunderstood and make a bad buzz. However, it is at this point that some brands take a subtle stand in certain facts while remaining good and correct in the eyes of the majority of the population. We are going to go deeper into the issue by looking at Nike's advertising released in 2018 and more precisely at the strategic and political choice of the brand. It all goes back to 2016 when the athlete Colin Kaepernick took the stage before NFL games, kneeling on the ground with his head down for the national anthem. An unpatriotic act in the eyes of some people like Donald Trump, but a citizen's choice above all for others like 49ers coach Chip Kelly. Although this act remains controversial, it is still very strong. The shadow of American society is based on racism, especially with black peoples. It must be said that the country was built on compromises between southern and northern states over slavery. The black man has suffered many discrimination and odious acts throughout the history of the United States. Much more than a simple symbol of revolt against a recent oppression in relation to skin color, it is an echo, a reminder, and above all, a strong demonstration to show that the black community will not flinch or lower its fist in the name of their ancestors, but also in the name of the future generation. Keep, thus declares through this pose, I will stand and I will fight. Despite everything, this choice will cost a lot to Colin, because he will be without a club at the end of the season and will never find one again. 2 years later, the subject is still relevant, but through this print ad, Copernic's activism takes off again with a boycott to the anthem, as complex as ever. But beyond putting the player back in the spotlight and taking sides, Nike is carrying out a very clever commercial strategy, because it is certain that its advertising campaign will make a lot of ink flow in view of the slippery ground on which the shoe brand sets foot. Moreover, this advertising can be perceived very differently in the eyes of everyone. First of all, the brand defends a community, and this same community will be able to identify itself with the brand, and thus the brand will gain more customers while remaining politically correct, because the advertising film brings together a lot of communities with all kinds of differences, which shows the brand's open-mindedness. However, more than half of Americans are opposed to the player's action, but these figures become skewed when social segmentation is used. In fact, 2/3 of Nike's consumers are under 34 years old. They are called the millennium, for people who are 18 to 35 years old. And most of them encourage the act of the American soccer player, and this is exactly what the brand aims at: the customer's loyalty by taking a stand and then identifying themselves in their favorite brand.
And when things aren't fair, we'll come together for change.
Behind this ad, the result of a collaboration between Nike and the Wieden Kennedy Agency, is a major social, political and economic gesture. Indeed, Nike has shown its support for American footballer Colin Kaepernick with a commercial to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the slogan "Just Do It." This ad is a black and white portrait photo of Kaepernick with the sentence "Believe in something even if it means sacrificing everything" in the middle of the picture, and with the slogan "Just Do It" written at the bottom. Despite its very minimalist appearance, this ad provokes very intense reactions, since it supports ideals that divide the country. This image evokes both the sporting values promoted by the brand and the story of Kaepernick, who hasn't played since the end of his contract with the San Francisco 49ers in March 2017, for lack of a team willing to hire him. But let's take a closer look at the ad, shall we? Colin Kaepernick's face in ad is straight. He shows all possible seriousness and determination, which gives importance to the message the ad conveys. In addition, Kaepernick's face occupies almost all of the ad, which further emphasizes his facial expression by showing the clarity of his features. The reason for this accentuation is the absence of design or graphics, which is called minimalist. Nike swoosh logos does not appear on the poster, nor does the fine print. The ad focuses on reducing the textual and pictorial content to a few signs, because the greater the amount of information contained in the ad, the lower its quality is considered to be. The brand did not show the logos and fine print to emphasize the importance of Kaepernick's social opinions in order to let the public know what to focus on, by making its product better known. This type of ad aims to virtually eliminate the visual pollutions that appears in many ads and to focus on a single visual message. The viewer of a more cluttered ad can spend a fraction of a second on each element, unlike the viewer of a minimalist ad who spends all his time focused on the single message, often a simple logo and slogan. And that's precisely what characterizes Nike. Its brand is built on minimalism, from its logo to the design of its products and the architecture of its retail stores. Words, even if they are few in number, attract attention because they are in the public field of vision. It's called shock value. It also occupies the width of the visual, so it's not easy to miss. Text like images completes the space and promotes visual simplicity. The amount of text is also limited to a few words and to a small extent in terms of space occupied, leaving plenty of room for Kaepernick encouraging image. This is also important for the millennials because of the quickness of information that an individual can consume and access. People of this generation are trained to browse information quickly because of the amount of information presented to them in a minute. In order to leave a lasting impression, ads must use minimalism to communicate effectively and easy to read fonts. Otherwise, they will be too visually cluttered and then forgotten. Here the goal is to stay in memory, to stand out and not fall into oblivion like all other ads because the competition is swarming. To complement minimalism, Nike's ad uses the absence of intense colors and favors shades of gray to increase the impact of the ad. The meaning of color is supposed to elicit an emotional response through the association and interpretation of colors. The use of black and white is used to provoke an emotional response, encouraging the controversial aspect behind this image. Even if the color is absent, it increases the probability that the ad will be seen and read. In contemporary advertising, the use of different colors decreases the readability and the title and obscures the details of the visuals, thus reducing advertising communication. This justifies the use of black and white colors. Regarding the slogan "Believe in something even if it means sacrificing everything," for Kaepernick it was his football career. Nike's ad plays on minimalism, such as the absence of design and words, and the combination of colors in black and white to effectively raise awareness of the social issues surrounding Kaepernick through the marketing of the product's brand. The effectiveness of the ad was such that it garnered both negative and positive publicity. Opponents boycotted the brand and even posted videos of burning the brand's products. With these positions for its athlete, Nike reinforced its credibility among American urban youth and culture. Its goal is to share the same fight, to reuse the slang slogans, not hesitating to brave the polemics to register as a brand that has freed itself from rules and codes that speak directly to the target audience. Nike uses all societal phenotypes to reach the consumer through this ad. Nike knows the importance of American culture in the world and among the different communities that make up the country. The company does not hesitate to use its knowledge of the field to denounce injustice and reveal itself as a brand that defends human values at the risk of being boycotted by its consumers and given bad publicity. Nike knew how to turn controversy into dollars. Nike said in a statement that the social justice issues that Colin and other professional athletes have raised deserve our attention and action. We embrace the role and responsibility of everyone involved with this game to promote meaningful, positive change in our communities. Nike has a history of taking a stand on social issues in its advertisement, and it's almost always resulted in a rise in sales.
So, with these statements for its athletes, Nike reinforces its credibility. The company makes its struggles its own, monopolizes its own slogans, surfs on polemics, not to fuel controversy but to show itself to be free of codes, rules, prejudices, and to address itself directly to the population it targets. The very people who support Kaepernick and his fight, and those who revolt against police violence. This campaign went viral in just a few hours, and the first hijackings soon blossomed on the web. The campaign's visuals became one and the same. Internet users had fun using the concept of the black and white portrait with the famous phrase, when it was not revisited for the occasion. Now you can see on the screen some tweets from Twitter users who made fun of the campaign, sort of. Former US President Donald Trump also took the opportunity to comment on the campaign after openly criticizing and even insulting Kaepernick and all the players boycotting the national anthem. According to the president, by kneeling during the anthem, Kaepernick's goal was to disrespect the anthem but also the American soldiers who died for the country. He tweeted on September 5th, 2018 on his account that just like the NFL, whose ratings have gone way down, Nike is getting absolutely killed with anger and boycotts. I wonder if they had any idea that it would be this way. As far as the NFL is concerned, I just find it hard to watch and always will until they stand for the flag. This anniversary campaign therefore made Colin Kaepernick the face of the sling and more generally the spokesperson for the civil rights movement like never before. Since its release, he has also signed with a publishing house to publish a book. Enraged by this event, many far rights activists and supporters of Donald Trump called for a boycott of the brand by inviting true patriots to burn the stuff they own, with varying degrees of success, as you can see. Let's talk now about the results of this campaign, as it was clearly the jackpot for Nike. It hit the mark hard, but more importantly, it hit the mark right. This campaign has become one of the most talked about and successful in recent years, as it is without a doubt the one that has had the most scope and impact. Here are a few numbers. The Dream Crazy video, which is the same of the name of the brand advertising to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Just Do It slogan, and which features some of its best known ambassadors with Colin Kaepernick as the narrator. And it was seen more than 80 million times on Twitter, Instagram and YouTube in just over a month. Colin Kaepernick's tweets unveiling the campaign now counts over 363,000 retweets, 860,000 likes, and has generated nearly 42,000 comments. The company initially thought that this campaign was not going to work, however it was quite the opposite, and for good reason. Nike's online sales increased by 31% between Sunday, September 2nd, and Tuesday, September 5th, which is the Labor Day weekend in the US, compared to 17% the previous year, according to Edison Trends. And even better, Mark Parker, managing director of Nike, filmed in front of the analysts of Wall Street on the occasion of the quarterly results of the firm that this campaign had generated a record engagement with the brand. This is a far cry from Donald Trump's alarmist predictions. While Nike shares still lost 3% and so its valuation fall by nearly $3.4 billion on the day of the video's release alone, in late September the brand's shares closed at an unprecedented high of over $85 per share. With this campaign, and in less than 24 hours, Nike received enormous media coverage, with press coverage overwhelmingly neutral or positive. But whatever the reactions, all contributed to Nike's campaign because it was on everyone's lips. And we believe that Collins is one of the most inspirational athletes of his generation, who has successfully used the power of his sport to move the world forward, said Gino Fisanotti, the brand's North American sales director, to ESPN. And they were in fact right, because it has generated unprecedented excitement. Nike hit the nail on the head on this campaign, with a return that was beyond their expectations. Choosing Kaepernick as their muse was a bold choice, but one that paid off. Even if it didn't please everyone, this campaign has created an impact in society, and it is therefore important to salute it, also in view of the cause defended, which is extremely important nowadays.